Bag, I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow, I'm trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted, cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured, but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of a presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. B1 code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. B1AG.
What's growing on? What's growing on? What is growing on? Welcome back to B1AG, the Daily Bread Podcast. I'm John Henry Harris. We have Farmer Brown, the MC. Here we focus on Black agriculture as it pertains to agricultural production, education, marketing, health, food, nutrition, and economics, all for the Black family and for the Black community. I hope you're doing well. Welcome Black to the garden. Today we're going to talk about Ye. Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West. You know, he had a very interesting interview on Drink Champs. You know, it's probably going to be one of the biggest interviews on Drink Champs this year. But outside of his music endeavors and things he's got going on with Kim Kardashian and his marriage, you know, Ye has invested a lot into agriculture. He's been invested into a 4,600 acres in Wyoming. And he really revealed he has plans on turning these 4,600 acres into a campus. And that's what we're going to focus on today is his plans on turning his 4,600 acre Wyoming ranch into a Yeezy Campus. Now, he's also on this campus, he's raising 1,200 head of sheep. He plans on studying things like passive energy, alternative forms of energy, sustainable living, and also different, just trying out different forms of architecture. You know, he says that we live in a box and he kind of wants to not live in a box and explore different forms of agriculture that may be more conducive to human living. So we're going to dive deep on Ye today on this Sunday. It's going to be our Sunday church service, so to speak. Well, Farmer Brown, what say you?
First, I just like to say peace to the B1 family. Hope everybody's doing well. So this was actually, I'll be honest, my first time really watching Drink Champs. I'm a big fan of, if you want to say fan of Kanye's music, not just his music, but his art. The brother was dropping some jewels on there. I think it's a lot for the melanated family to take in, not even from an entertainment or celebrity standpoint, but just, some of the practical knowledge and jewels that he was dropping. And we got this thing in the melanated family. Sometimes we shoot the messenger and forget the message. But I think it was very interesting for me. It was glazed over real fast. What's going on, family? It was glazed over real fast. Nori was like, oh, so you a sheep herder? And he was like, yeah, very affirmative. But I think outside of just Kanye, my job is an extension agent. That's my 9 to 5. And so I work with small farms. And I understand that this is doable. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to have a lot of money. But if you have enough people with kindred minds focused on the goal of producing, there's a lot of opportunities out here right now for the melanated family. And I think Kanye West represents not just the archetype, but he represents a model of what can be applied to people who are looking into getting large tracts of land or just wanting to get into agriculture as a whole. But I think this is a very interesting story, and I think there's a lot of talking points to go along with it.
Now, there's a GQ article where they really interviewed and followed Kanye West out to his Wyoming ranch. And the visuals are pretty stunning. And we're gonna take a look at this interview. It's a short clip, about four and a half minutes. But you'll get a chance to see Kanye's sheep, and I guess he's a sheep herder now. But the way he does it is definitely going to be a little bit different from most sheep herders, as you'll see. Check this out.
Wyoming. What was the seed of coming to a ranch?
I was looking for a spot to start the Yeezy Campus, and we needed thousands of acres. So we went to the Caldera House in Jackson Hole and started looking for property in Wyoming. And I believe this is the first property we looked at. By the time we were about to leave the ranch, I fell in love with it and I bought it. And now we're here.
How many acres are we sitting on here?
This is 4,500. And we have another ranch that's 6,500.
So what is your vision? What all is happening here now, and how will it unfold?
This will be one of the Yeezy campuses. And the Yeezy campus will have the work that our architectural team has been working on with James Terrell and Claudio Silvestri to create spaces that allow humans to maximize our potential, to take us out of the box. And literally and figuratively, we live in boxes. We leave the womb when we're born and get put directly into the tomb. We get put directly into our first square space, which is the beginning of us going from being multi-dimensional and completely imaginative to placed onto a grid. Those boxes are those grids. First, it starts off at the crib. Then we go to schools where that's a box. Then we go to higher learning a lot of times. That's a box. And then we end up at a job where we're working inside of a box. And then we do that to try to buy a crib, actually. And then we, have children and then put our children in a crib.
So instead of boxes, the Yeezy way of life will look like what?
More flow.
Has some of the work for developing and building those begun here already?
Yes, it has.
Where do we stand in the process?
In the middle of it. That's where I always stand. That's my favorite place to stand in any process, in the middle. It's always a process.
What is the farming element that's underway at this ranch or your other ranch?
We are going to have hydroponic, aquaponics, passive energy, but I'm not the expert. I work with experts to create the best product for humanity. And that was the original idea behind Donda, to have the best of the best working together.
How do you see Sunday service playing a role here?
We definitely will have services here. The inventions and the developments and the innovations that I'm a part of always become the new standard.
Eventually, will people come to visit here, or is it for your family? Will people be able to experience these shelters you're developing?
Yes, that will be some of the immediate goals within our lifetime. But ultimately, this will be the paradigm shift to create platforms for freer thought than the boxes that we're in now. How'd that shot look over there? Yeah. Yeah, cool. Have you tried these on right here?
No, I haven't.
These are the best.
Slides.
You can play basketball in them.
Yeezy.
Who'd have thought the hip hop would take it this far? He brought up three main points that I hope the family paid attention to. And okay, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just somewhere on Turtle Island, wanting to get into this ag thing. He brought up the farming component. So I don't know if he's raising those sheep for the fiber, for his clothing line, or he might be raising them for meat. We're coming up in a world where they're doing lab grown meat, right? Uh, then he brought up the church service. If we're going to be very practical about some of the discussions we have, we know that we're a spiritual people. And so we know the houses of worship, we saw how a pandemic can shut that down, people's ability to come together. Where two or three gathered there, I will be also. It doesn't mean you have to be in this proverbial box. And so when we think about what church services look like, and then the services that are houses of worship, regardless of the denomination, the outdoors. And then I think of agritourism. And so personally, I know, I'm a co-founder of one of the largest Black agritourism company in the state of Kentucky, Black Soil. And so I do know that there is not only an economic benefit, but also a spiritual existential benefit of agritourism. These large swaths of land, whether you're talking about adults that are wanting to kind of just get out of this urban sprawl, this urban jungle, into more wider space, or actually learning spaces for youth. And so saying this to say, when we think about how can we apply this to some of the communities we're at right now, obviously most of us aren't going to just go get 4,600 acres of land, but on 120 acres, on 50 acres, there's a lot that you can do with those spaces, not just for the production aspect of it, but like I said, these are learning spaces. One of the key components of agriculture, especially going into the future, is diversification. You want to take this piece of land you have, and you want to make sure you're maximizing the usage of it. You want to make sure that, okay, yeah, I'm going to grow something on a few acres, but then another few acres, I might just be doing some conservation programs, conserving certain wildlife. Absolutely. And we're talking about, I'm glad you said that, sister. So we're in 2021 right now, but right now, mentally, we need to be in 2030. And so I think what Kanye is talking about, this is definitely the wave.
I know this farming component, he made sure he pointed out, aeroponics, hydroponics, passive energy. And this is, literally, he has the space and the capacity to where that land can literally be a campus. It can be somewhere where you can come and learn how to do hydroponics. He can still have a huge hydroponics setup and teach people how to do this. Aeroponics, just different ways to grow food. Because he's out there in Wyoming. The land looks pretty good, but I don't know how well it's suited for conventional farming. But it is an opportunity, with that much land where he can explore. He can explore these different forms of growing food, and it's like a living, breathing classroom.
When we were at the All Black National Convention, one of the key points, obviously, you can look at it as a shameless plug, but being practical. This is the use of your cooperative extension. Wherever you're at in what we call North America, Turtle Island, you're going to have cooperative extension offices. The purpose of these offices, they're paid for with your taxpayer dollars. You're going to have somebody come out to your land. You're going to do soil samples. You're going to analyze, your water sources. These are people that can sit down with you and, establish a farm plan. The thing about farming that you have to understand, obviously, on an existential level, the first thing in your mind should be, now, how can I use this space to benefit somebody, to feed somebody, to enhance somebody's quality of life? But these are also businesses. Many times, and it's just been in my personal experience, I imagine if you talk to a lot of extension agents around the country, they'll have the same story of sometimes a lot of times farmers don't necessarily see their operations as businesses. It's more of legacy preservation. This is one of the most altruistic groups, somebody that's willing to go out and sweat, put in hard work, invest money into producing food, into producing fiber. That's a good trait of a human being. But at the end of the day, even if you want to do a good thing, it does cost. And so, obviously there's a component, okay, you want your operation to pay for itself, but to keep this operation going, you want to make it profitable. And so this is the use of your cooperative extension offices. And it will be a scam if one of your extension agents charge you. This is a free service, family. And once again, it's simple as understanding, okay, I'm in Las Vegas, I'm in North Carolina, I'm in Chicago, I'm in Houston. There's an extension office. There's an extension agent assigned to your area. Their whole job is to help you optimize your space. Their whole job is to point out this is what can be grown here. These are the funding opportunities. These are the areas where you can actually make some money and make your operation more profitable. And so I definitely encourage the family to take advantage of that. It's not to say that extension agents are the only source of information and education regarding your space, but when we think about this concept of tangibles, when we think about the things that we go to the government for, many times we're looking for the government to give us a long owed and do financial reparative justice. We see how this can get kicked down the road, but I also want the family to understand there are resources that are already available that are hidden in plain sight. On subject but off, I think one of the interesting things looking at Kanye's interview, a lot of the people that was talking about, oh, he dissed Soulja Boy, oh, he's throwing shade at Drake. It was literally 2 or 3 seconds where Nori was like, oh, so you a sheep herder? And he was like, yeah. And he went into a brief science of what he was doing. And to me, looking at it from a practical sense, this is one of the biggest pieces of this interview. As we think about where this food system is going, as we're looking at how this supply chain disruption is going to affect, I'm not going to say going to affect, it's affecting the melanated family. It's affecting how much money we're spending at the cash register. It's affecting the quality of food that is available for us. As we're going into 2022, this is the perfect time, starting yesterday, to really start planning out what does my place in the food system look like. One of the wise comments he made in this interview that you just showed was he said, I'm not the expert. And so I worked with the expert. I had the financial capital. I had this seed in my head that, hey, this is important. And so when you think about your people that's in the real estate investments, when you're thinking about the people that are into finances, hey, you don't have to be the genius of everything. Personally, I like to be in a room full of people that know more than myself, right? Because then you'll learn. And so when you can apply these same concepts of just, hey, let me not try to take everything on my own. Let me apply my piece to this broader equation. Here at B1AG, we like to focus on food security. Obviously, like I said, with sheep, you can get fiber. This creates clothes for the entrepreneur-minded people. Kanye was dropping gems. Peace, Brother Thaxton. He was dropping gems. He was also talking about his life is in danger. He understands it. When you start speaking truth, the algorithms come against you. And this is why we're pushing the B1 algorithm, right? We have a huge opportunity on our hands. He also said something. He was like, wow, your money is still valuable. Invest in something tangible like land where you can produce. On 4,600 acres, you got to think about when we're talking about sustainable communities. This is when your shipping container homes come into play. This is when your tiny houses come into play. This is when we start implementing, some of the knowledge from people like Led Farmer, right? How do we apply this in a so-called wilderness situation? We have some very interesting times coming ahead of us, family. But I wear these bright glasses because I see a bright future, once we can really put together the degree of what's going on right now. He also kept touching on, the Most High anoints people. He points people out as icons. A light doesn't talk. A light doesn't have an ideology, a political side. He talks about the red hat. But we're talking about that mantle, that helmet of salvation. And a part of this salvation, when we talk about building this melanated nation of the chosen, we have to feed one another. And so once again, these feeding operations aren't just as simple as throw seeds in the ground and suddenly everybody's fed. There is some strategy put behind it. And here, as we're going into this dark winter, this is the time for the melanated family to have these conversations.
Now, Brian, I know you recently talked to a young couple who had some land and they wanted to start a farming operation. Could you go into tell our audience about, your experience with them and how easily, like, even though you may not have 4,500 acres, but you can definitely work with what you have to start a grow operation?
The other day we did we did a show about Travis Scott opening a garden in Houston to honor his grandmother, and I still think that that's honorable. But then, literally the day after, he had a concert and people lost their lives. I'll be very honest. I hadn't been a big music listener of Travis Scott, but I thought just the concept that a hip hop artist understanding that connection with the land and gardening, I thought that was big. And then the next day, you have this huge, some people call it a ritual. I don't know. But saying that to say, I felt like I kind of got a redemption the day after. There was a family that reached out to Cooperative Extension. I work at Kentucky State University. This is the 1890s land grant institution in Kentucky. And this was a young couple. I think they can't be more older than 33 years old. They teamed up with three other couples. And so they came together. They live in a big city. Most of them have careers in medicine, but they went in on 190 acres just in rural Kentucky. Like I said, a lot of people are aging out. The average farmer in North America right now is 65 years old. A lot of people are jumping out of the game. And so when I tell the melanated family, and as Brother Thaxton said, we're in our finest hour. There's a lot of opportunities, and you don't have to be a superstar to work together with other like-minded individuals to invest in some land. And so our job was to come out there, hey, y'all, we got this 190 acres. Our goal is to feed people. We realize that there's, biblically, because the brother, he's a preacher. He was saying biblically, there's the 7 years of plenty, and then there's the 7 years of famine. And so we want to poise ourselves with this land to be able to feed people, which is a very honorable goal for our operation. And so when we talk about this relationship with your cooperative extension, he's wanting to address food security. There are some very specific items that go along with this. For example, if I'm wanting to produce produce and I just bought some land from somebody that's been running livestock, or I'm somebody that's been raising livestock and I want to transition over to vegetable production, you got to look at your infrastructure. You got to look at, do I have the proper roads going into my place to where trucks can come in, tractors, whatever you're going to be using, can they come in and actually get this produce off of the farm, get it to the city, or get it to the people? One of the things, and this goes into the H2A workers, here at B1AG, this is one of our main reasons we have this conversation. We got to have a grassroots workforce. The sister Vicky Dillard keeps talking about, the power is in the grassroots. That same has to apply when it comes to this workforce of who's producing. You don't want to depend, and this is advice. You don't want to depend your operation on volunteer work. Volunteerism is good. These are great learning opportunities, but you want to make sure if you're going to be producing anything that you have somebody to do it. Maybe you're just the investor. Maybe you're the one that got the land, but you got to go to the city. You got to go to the office to conduct your business. And so before putting any seed in the ground, you want to make sure that you actually have the labor involved. And so long story short, our goal was to, hey, you might want to fill out a farm management plan. And I think the brother, if you get a chance, we'll have a link down here if the family wants to look at what does a farm management plan look like. And this goes over some of the things you want to think about when you either get this land, maybe you have some family land, or maybe you're just wanting to transition the operation you have. You want to look at least a 3 to 5 year plan. This is before putting any seeds in the ground. If you want to get a cute little garden on your space, okay, that's fine. But when it comes to the actual operation of it, where you're going to be generating, you really want to have a 3 to 5 year plan laid out. So if we're in 2021, you want to have your 2026, 2027 plan laid out before you put a seed in the ground. Because once again, you don't want to get your crops going, spend thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, whichever scale you want to do into producing something, and then realizing, okay, I don't have a market to sell it to. I grew all of this stuff. I had this great idea, but I don't have anybody to sell it to. I don't have anybody to work it. I'm in the city. I'm going to work. I'm traveling. I didn't realize that somebody was going to have to come out here and water. I didn't realize somebody was going to have to come out here and build fence. I didn't realize somebody was going to have to come out here and weed X amount of times a week. And so you want to have all of these details laid out, and this is what a farm management plan will do for you. This is what your cooperative extension agent can help you with. Do I have the right soil? Okay, it looks like right here I got this flat land. It seems like it's good, but you might dig down and 1 inch under is straight bedrock or straight rock, or it's been contaminated by pesticides. And so obviously you don't want to start a new growing operation on contaminated land. And so these are some of the areas where you do want to incorporate science. There is a value in science. You want to think out what is your goal and mission. So as I take out on this endeavor to feed people, don't just say I want to feed people. How many people do you want to feed? And so this family, they live closer to Cincinnati. What I know about Cincinnati, if we're just talking about the Kentucky, northern Kentucky area, you got Cincinnati, you got Lexington, you got Louisville. So what these represent are 3 large markets. And, I ain't going to go into their details, but these are 3 large markets within, I'll say 80 to 100 miles of where they stay. And so what you want to do is literally specifically identify how many people can I get in the Cincinnati market, for example. Okay, 80 miles down the road, I know there's Lexington. How many can I serve out of that market? How many can I serve in Louisville? And you're going to plan your operation around it. You're going to do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what are the strengths? Okay, I have this 190, I have this 100, I have this 50 acres. That's a strength. I have the tangible resources. Weakness, okay, my skill set is in medicine. My skill set is, I work at a factory. My skill set, okay, I'm not really a farmer. I just have the resources to get this farm. So that can be classified as a weakness. We got to be very honest. Opportunities is, hey, I have this large resource and I can grow something. And then threats. And so let's just be very honest, family. A lot of the land that you're going to get in North America right now, you're going to be surrounded by non-melanated people. The farther down south you go, you might have a little bit more melanin surround you. But this is where brothers like Maj Toure come in. We had the discussion at the All Black National Convention. You need protection. That is a piece of it because it is not unheard of people encroaching on your land, hunting, moving some of the land boundaries back. And so you want to get a good survey. You want to make sure you know where your land is. This is where you incorporate cameras. We know about the cameras we put on our front porches, but, you want to secure your land. Resource inventory. Upon buying this land, do I have barns? Do I already have fences in play? Do I have any processing capacity? So if I'm growing something, okay, maybe where I'm getting this land, it would, the infrastructure is set up for raising livestock. That's a very different type of processing facility than if you're raising produce. And so you want to think all of this out when you're mapping out your management plan. What equipments will you need? I also encourage the family to look up the nrcs.gov. The government, in many ways, I say fortunately or unfortunately, does have resources. And so while you're planning this land, there are funding sources available just conserving trees. If you have a waterway, and so the family we met, they had like a mile's worth of stream going around the farm. And so there are funding sources for just conserving the wildlife around where you're at. You might have a certain type of bird that happens to nest in the area where you have trees. And so that is a funding source as you're planning your actual growing operations. The family we met with, they wasn't really big on the hunting and the animal aspect, which is cool. But that is another area of income. I know here in Kentucky, some of the farmers we work with get up to about $10,000 a year, literally just leasing certain plots of their land for people to do dove hunting. And so that's another stream of revenue. And so that will go in. And we think about going into this Build Back Better, there's a global initiative to cut down on carbon. And so you want to factor that into your operation. Let me not get an operation that's going to be, emitting a lot of carbon emissions, because now instead of making money, I'm going to be paying out carbon taxes. And so you want to think all of this out before you put anything in the ground. season extenders. Also through the NRCS for people looking into high tunnels. You want to make sure that you have, once you get this operation going, you want it going all year. What I can tell you is seasons can be a killer for somebody that didn't think all of this out. And so you really want to look at creating at least one high tunnel on your operation. At least you can have something on your operation that is able to be produced year round. When you think about irrigation, so how close are my water sources? Do I already have wells on this land, or is this something that I'm going to have to get put into the land? You don't want to get your production started and you don't have anything to water it with. You don't want to have a stream that's contaminated. And so once again, this is how you're going to utilize your extension offices to make sure you know exactly what it is you're working with. You're going to think about pricing. And so whatever it is I'm selling in this, say, I'm just using Kentucky, for example, whatever it is I'm going to sell in these areas where I'll be selling my produce, where do I have to price it? Because we want to do good. We want to help each other, but you also want to keep your operation going. Sometimes goodwill can kill an operation. And so you got to match that goodwill with the practicality of what you're working with. Honestly, melanated family, I'll be totally honest with you. Black farmers have to charge a little bit more because they don't have the same amount of resources or, capital to work with. But when we look at the long-term investment, okay, if I spend an extra dollar per pound of tomatoes, a pound of produce, or bushel with this melanated farmer now in 2022, by 2023, 2024, this person can come down on their price. And, we invest in the stock market. We invest in all of these large companies that just want to exploit us. Invest in your local producers. Like I said, it's a sad thing to see farmers, especially melanated farmers, trying to compete in a production market that works against them. Because now I have to come down on my price to compete with the guy who got a table set up next to me. But then by me coming down on my price, I'm not able to run my operation. And so as a melanated family who's interested in figuring out ways to help these farmers, these are some of the things to take into consideration. Who's going to manage this operation? If you're making your bag in the city, if you're working in corporate, do you have money allocated for a workforce? Unfortunately, this is why the H-2A workers have to come above the border. They come from a culture, not being disparaging, they come from a culture that's agricultural anyway. And so to them, okay, yeah, I'll take this pittance that y'all want to throw us in North America, because I realize it's at 80%. Is the percentile 80% of our food grown here in North America is grown by people that's not from North America. That's not because the land doesn't exist, but we've kind of veered away from the importance of being able to produce food. And so when we think about the jobs of the future, when we think about the very concise codified training of young people, are we training a workforce to work smarter and not harder? Here at B1AG, we're not trying to raise a plantation culture. That's not it at all. Like we saw Kanye sitting on them ATVs. There's science applied to that. How can I make this ATV conducive to producing something on these large swaths of land? And see the genius of our young people. These are the people who will figure those out. If us as the elders are planting the seed of why it's important. Licensing and special permits and insurance. You want to make sure people are coming on your land, nobody's getting hurt and then coming to sue you. And so you want to think all of this out before you get anything in the ground. Like I said, identify funding opportunities. What I know personally in my experience, just doing the programming that I do, there's a lot of funding sources I come across that nobody ever came and knocked on my door and said, hey, Farmer Brown, this is available for education. Hey, Farmer Brown, this is available for local food systems. Peace, Sister Sinclair of Valurit. There's a lot of funding available, but it's like we, as a melanated family, we got to know that it's something that exists. Or what'll happen is people be like, well, we told them it was there. They just didn't come to it. Because for some odd reason, the negative things, the liquor, the drugs, the alcohol, that gets marketed a lot better than the healthy food in our community. I don't know if that's a conspiracy or what. Production, marketing, financial, armed succession plan. Think with the end in mind. Okay, so right now, maybe I'm 40, maybe I'm 50. I want to put a good 10, 20 years into this operation to make it grow. Here at B1AG, we talk about this growth mindset. You know, we don't want to be stagnant. We don't want to just get by. We want to make things grow. We want to make it rain on the generations ahead of us. And so, what does this succession look like? Uh, After 20 years, after I've tapped out, after my back ain't working the same, after I maybe just want to travel the world, you know, if these restrictions, peace to New Orleans. And so the court down there struck down this mandate. That's another story. How are we going to pass this farm down? Are we working with other families? You know, many hands make light work. The more people, when we think about cooperative economics, the more people putting into something, the more people you have absorbing whatever losses, and then there's more people to stand the profit. And so really thinking about the succession of how do we pass this down and make sure that it keeps growing. And these are just some, like I said, bruh put in the link to a farm management plan. I would hope the family would download it if you're tapping in with us live to just kind of put this in play. This is relevant for a large swath of land. This is also relevant for a couple of acres. What we know here at B1AG, we're not selling wolf tickets. Depending on how intensive and how well your operation is planned, people are getting like 60,000 per acre. Like I said, that is work. You're using your hands. It's not as equipment dependent, but you know, land and production can be very profitable. It does, you know, it's not just as simple as throwing a seed in the ground. It does take planning and it does take work, but it is doable. Right now in the season of transparency, you know, we have to take advantage of these opportunities, family. You know, no. Go, Brandon. No, Brandon.
No, Brandon. Yeah, but Kanye or Ye, he's definitely showing what can, you know, the possibilities. He's showing us, you know, the possibilities of what we can do. Not just Kanye. You know, there are a lot of people that are buying land. And, you know, once you have this land, you're free to do what you want to do. You're free to do what you need to do. You know, you're free and have the capacity to feed other people. However, and also not however, but you know, even on the little land that you have on your patio at your apartment, you have the capacity to feed yourself and to feed your family. And never take that for granted either.
Family, there's a big bag in local food systems. I would never suggest for anybody to just wait on the government to make it rain. But when we think about just investment strategies, long-term investment, when we think about long-term investments, understanding local food systems is the wave of the future. The days of big farming, FARM are over. We do see a lot of people holding on to the old guard, the old way of doing things. That's very unfortunate. But what I can tell you from a professional standpoint, everything is going towards local. One of the reasons we stress learning how to grow your own food, whether it's in your kitchen in a window, whether it's in your backyard, whether it's on your balcony, once you understand this process, it makes you that much more knowledgeable when it comes to applying this to larger plots, your urban gardens, your community gardens. From there, you're able to work with like-minded individuals to invest in rural land, because the mainstream farm population, and we're not being disparaging, but it is what it is. They're dying off. Their kids aren't going into farming either. And so what happens is you have these millions of acres around the country where, okay, I want to get something for it. And so as a melanated family, we got to be prepared, as land is being made available. When I say prepared, obviously there's a financial end, but also having plans in place. We've thought this out. We've made sure because it's not going to be everybody. It's not going to be everybody. You know, Kanye had brought up the Hebrew, the tribes. What do they say? 2/3 ain't going to go to the promised land. They're going to be bought into these boxes. They're going to be bought into the system. That's very unfortunate. So here at B1AG, we want to really tap in with the melanated family that understands the times that we're in and the opportunities that are available. It comes with work. It comes with thought. You know, there is prayer, but it's like the reaction to prayer is, okay, I'm a program into you what you need to do. You know, don't keep putting everything in my hands. I gave you hands. I gave you a brain. And I gave you all of this land. I gave you Eden. Y'all let these people run it, and you see what's happened. And so this is our time for redemption, family. This is a bright time. It's going to come across when we think about birthing pains that a woman goes through when they're giving birth. It is painful. It is very painful. It's bloody. It's nasty. It's like, oh my God, this has to be traumatic. But at the end of it, you got these babies. We got this baby of food security. We got this baby of economic stability. We got this baby of communal love, real love, not this eros love, but this love of we want to feed one another. We want to make sure that we exist far into the perpetuity of whatever this planet turns into, and it starts with feeding ourselves. And this isn't something that's just relegated to rural farms. This can be applied whatever hood you're in what we call Turtle Island, North America. Then it starts with the seed.
It all starts with the seed, y'all. And here at B1AG, we're going to continue to push the black algorithm. We're going to fight against the algorithm and push the black algorithm. That's what we're here for.
Pushing the black algorithm. Ancestors, they mastered the systems. We're raising your bosses, no victims. Planting that knowledge curriculum. Blessing the boots with the nutrients. The darker the berry like Nubian. Dropping the seats like I'm Julian. The streets with that boot like Peruvian. Trapping the merch in the fruits and the veggies. CSA boxes, my package is heavy. Ship across down in the bed of my Chevy. Printing them up, growing longer, they carry me. If you say ready, they got scrambled. Battle like farmers and growers, no penalty. Hammering our fingers, the gamers in shambles. That's what that melanin carry the miracle. Mothers and fathers of civilization. Back to the garden with food cultivation. Building back attitude like innovation. B1 community going the nation. Genetically designed to be the purpose. Loving that growth mindset. Codified, now we focus farming on track. Be the fan, break bread rhythm. Pushing that B1 algorithm. Now, watch me get 'em, watch me get 'em. Pushing that B1 algorithm. Be the fan, break bread rhythm. Pushing that B1 algorithm. Watch me get 'em, watch me get 'em. Pushing that B1 algorithm.
There it is. So Farmer Brown, we talked about Ye. His 4,500 acres he wants to turn into a campus to show us, different ways to live more sustainably, grow our own food. We've also talked about how we can do this ourselves. I put in the chat, in the comments, as well as showed y'all the banners of how to get examples of a farm plan, as well as examples of a site where you can go to fund your operation. You can actually fund your operation. www.nrcs.usda.gov. This site here, this will show you money event that's available to help you fund your operation. Farm management plan here at catalog.extensionoregonstate.edu. Gives you an example of a farm management plan. Got to think everything out. Just don't, just go into something blindly. Really put thought and effort into it so you can make precise movements and less mistakes. Because, mistakes cost money, mistakes cost time. And, at the end of the day, a lot of mistakes that's going to cost food production. So you'll be working against yourself. So, Farmer Brown, it's been a great show, bro. I think hopefully our people there, the B1AG family, they've really learned a lot. And at the end of the day, if you really, really want to learn something, what do the people need to do, bro?
If you really want to know something, go to healthyblackfood.com. You know, let's break this down. Let's understand everything from the seed to the table. If you really want to know something, family, we're in our finest hour. Let's learn how to grow something.
Healthyblackfood.com. And if you have any questions, comments, information, you just want to just reach out to us. You can do that at b1aghiphop@gmail.com. Let's get black to the garden. Let's keep growing. We're coming up on a new week. I hope y'all enjoyed your extra hours of rest. I know I did. I feel great. Recharged, ready to go, ready to, put my foot up in Mondays. But that's another story. So, B1AG, Daily Bread Podcast. I'm John Henry Harris. We have Farmer Brown MC. Until next time, see you soon. Keep it growing. Peace.